Do you know what it feels like when someone takes your words, the worst words you've ever said in anger, and uses them as a weapon against your own heart? I do now. What would you do if your husband insulted you, shamed you, and told you no man would ever marry a woman like you who have given birth to 3 kids? And then walked out, leaving you alone with 3 children? Because that's exactly what happened to me. Stay with me because what I discovered next will shock you, and it might save another woman's life. I'm sitting in my flat in Bethnal Green staring at my phone. It's been ringing for the past hour, 47 missed calls to be exact. I've counted them. When you've got nothing else to do but sit in the silence of an empty home that should be filled with children's laughter, you count things. Missed calls. Minutes. Heartbeats. Regrets. Before you scroll, take 1 second. Subscribe for more real-life stories like this. My name is Charlotte Hayes. I'm 32 years old, though I feel about 60 right now. I work as a healthcare assistant at Royal London Hospital, which means I spend 12-hour shifts on my feet, dealing with bodily fluids, checking vital signs, and holding the hands of dying strangers whose families can't be bothered to visit. It's not the career I dreamed of when I was younger. I wanted to be a proper nurse, maybe even work in pediatrics. But life has a way of reducing your dreams to something more manageable, more affordable, more realistic. I live in a 1-bedroom flat where the heating works when it feels like it, where I can hear my neighbors arguing through walls so thin they might as well not exist, where the lift's been broken for 3 months and I have to carry shopping up 4 flights of stairs. It's not much, but it's mine. Or rather, it's half mine and half the bank's, and I'm 3 weeks behind on the mortgage, but let's not get into that right now. Until yesterday I was also a mother. I am a mother. Present tense. That doesn't change just because my children aren't here right now, does it? You don't stop being a mother just because you've made one catastrophically bad decision. At least I hope you don't. Because if you do, then I don't know who I am anymore. Let me tell you how I got here. How I went from being a woman who would literally die for her children to someone who walked away from them in a single afternoon. How one phone call, one argument, one moment of absolute desperation transformed me from mummy into that woman who abandoned her kids. Started 9 years ago. I was 23, working retail at a shop in Stratford, dreaming of saving enough money to go to university, maybe study nursing properly. I'd go out with my friends on Friday nights, sleep until noon on Saturdays, spend my money on clothes and concerts and all those frivolous things young people do when they don't have 3 mouths to feed. I met Marcus Thompson at a pub in Shoreditch, one of those places with exposed brick walls and craft beers that cost £7 a pint, where everyone's having intense conversations about things that don't really matter. He was there with his mates from work, all of them in their mid-20s, working in IT and finance, talking about startups and disruption and cryptocurrency like they were inventing the future. Marcus had kind eyes. Or maybe I just wanted to see kindness in them. He was good-looking in that ordinary way, not devastatingly handsome but pleasant, with nice teeth and a decent haircut. He wore a proper shirt, not a t-shirt like most of the blokes there. He bought me a drink, vodka tonic I remember, and we talked for hours about everything and nothing. He seemed stable. That's what attracted me, I think. After a string of boyfriends who couldn't hold down jobs or remember my birthday or text back within 3 days, Marcus seemed like an actual adult. He had a career, a car, a pension plan. He talked about the future like it was something real and achievable, not some vague concept that might or might not happen. We moved fast. Too fast probably, but when you're young and in love, or what you think is love, you don't question the speed. You just enjoy the rush. We moved in together after 6 months, got a little flat in Walthamstow, played house like we knew what we were doing. I got pregnant with Olivia after a year. It wasn't planned, I was on the pill, but I'd had a stomach bug and didn't realize it could affect the contraception. But Marcus seemed happy about it. Excited even. When we got married at Hackney Town Hall when I was 5 months pregnant, a small ceremony with just close family. My mum cried through the whole thing, and at the time I thought it was because she was happy for me. Looking back now, I realize she was probably crying because she could see the future I couldn't. Mothers always know, don't they? They can sense when their daughters are making mistakes, but they stay quiet because what can they say? Don't marry him, don't have his baby, don't build a life with someone who'll eventually let you down? You can't say those things. So they cry quietly and hope for the best. Olivia was born on a Tuesday in March. 7 pounds 3 ounces of perfect, screaming humanity. I remember looking at her in the hospital, this tiny creature with his nose and my stubborn chin, with her eyes screwed shut against the world, and thinking, I will never let anything hurt you. I will protect you from everything. I will be the mother I never had, the mother every child deserves. That's a promise every mother makes when they first hold their baby. It's also a promise that's impossible to keep. But you don't know that yet. You're high on oxytocin and hope, convinced that your love is a shield strong enough to protect this precious person from every hardship, every disappointment, every pain. Marcus was a good father at first. He did the night feeds, changed nappies without complaining too much, cooed at Olivia like she was the most fascinating thing in the universe. But there was always this distance. Like he was performing fatherhood rather than living it. He'd hold her for photographs, pulling funny faces to make her smile for the camera. But the moment she started crying or needed her nappy changed, he'd hand her back to me with this look of mild relief. You're just better at this, he'd say, as if parenting was some innate skill women were born with rather than something you learn through sleepless nights and constant vigilance. When Olivia was 2, I got pregnant again. Twins. That wasn't planned either. We'd been careful, or so we thought, but Marcus said it would be fine. He'd just gotten a promotion at work, a nice salary increase, and we could afford a bigger place. We moved to a little house in Bethnal Green, 2 bedrooms, a tiny garden out back where Olivia could play. The twins were born 7 months premature. Samuel came first, small but fierce, screaming his way into the world. Emma came 3 minutes later, blue and silent, not breathing. I remember the sudden rush of doctors, the way they whisked her away before I could even see her properly, the terrible silence where there should have been crying. She spent 2 weeks in NICU, this tiny fragile thing covered in tubes and wires, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed and kept her alive. I practically lived at the hospital during those 2 weeks, sitting beside her incubator, reaching through the little portholes to touch her impossibly small hand, pumping breast milk in sterile rooms and crying in toilet cubicles where no one could see me fall apart. Samuel was stronger, but they kept him in for observation. So I had 2 babies in special care and a 2-year-old at home who didn't understand why Mummy was always at the hospital. Marcus tried to help. He took time off work to look after Olivia, brought me sandwiches and coffee when he visited, but I could see it wearing on him. The stress, the exhaustion, the sudden reality that 3 children was so much harder than 1. That's when the cracks started showing. The small fissures that would eventually become chasms wide enough to swallow our entire marriage. When the twins finally came home, I quit my retail job. We couldn't afford childcare for 3 kids under 3, and Marcus's salary was better than mine anyway, so the math was simple. I became a stay-at-home mom, which sounds lovely and wholesome until you realize it means 24/7 responsibility for 3 tiny humans who all need different things at the same time. Olivia was going through her terrible twos, having epic tantrums about everything from the wrong color cup to her socks feeling too sock-y. The twins needed feeding every 3 hours, day and night. Emma had breathing problems. Her NICU stay had left her with weak lungs, so every little sniffle required careful monitoring in case it turned into something serious. I survived on 4 hours of sleep, cobbled together in 90-minute chunks. I wore the same 6 stained clothes for days because I didn't have time to do laundry. I ate standing up over the sink because sitting down at a table felt like an impossible luxury. I stopped wearing makeup, stopped caring about my hair, stopped being anything other than mum. And Marcus? Marcus worked 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, weekends off. He'd come home at 6, eat the dinner I'd managed to cook despite having babies attached to each breast and a toddler pulling at my legs, then retreat to the living room to decompress in front of the television. "I've had a really stressful day," he'd say when I asked him to help with bath time. "I just need an hour to myself." An hour to himself. I would have killed for an hour to myself. Hell, I would have killed for 10 minutes to shower without someone crying. On Friday nights, he'd go to the pub with his mates. "I need to decompress," he'd say again, that word becoming his shield against responsibility. "It's important for my mental health." And what about my mental health? What about the fact that I hadn't had a conversation with another adult in 3 days that didn't involve discussing sleep schedules or nappy rash? What about the fact that I was drowning in responsibility while he got to maintain his social life, his hobbies, his sense of self? But I didn't say any of that. I just smiled and said, "Of course, have fun, because that's what good wives do, isn't it? They sacrifice and support and never complain about the fundamental unfairness of it all." The resentment built slowly. It's insidious resentment. It starts with small things. A flash of irritation when he forgets to put his dishes in the dishwasher, A tight feeling in your chest when he talks about his lunch break like it's a hardship. And then it spreads, seeping into every interaction until everything he does annoys you. We started fighting. Small arguments at first about whose turn it was to change a nappy or why there was never any milk in the fridge. Then bigger fights about money, about the division of labor, about why he got to have a life while mine had shrunk to the four walls of our house. You chose this, he said once during a particularly vicious argument. You wanted kids. As if wanting children meant I'd forfeited my right to complain about the reality of raising them. You're at home all day, he'd say when I tried to explain how exhausted I was. What else do you have to do? What else did I have to do? I had 3 children under 5 to keep alive, feed, clean, educate, and entertain. I had laundry that multiplied like some kind of cursed fairy tale. I had meals to cook from scratch because we couldn't afford takeaway. I had a house to clean that never stayed clean for more than 30 seconds. I had 0 time to myself, 0 adult interaction, 0 opportunity to be anyone other than Mummy. But apparently because I wasn't commuting to an office and sitting at a desk for 8 hours, I wasn't really working. When the twins was 4, I decided I needed to go back to work. Not just for the money, though we desperately needed it, but for my sanity. I needed to be Charlotte again, not just Mum. I needed adult conversations and challenges that didn't involve negotiating with a toddler about eating vegetables. I got a job as a healthcare assistant, night shifts at Royal London Hospital. I'd work 11 at night until 7 in the morning, come home, take over from Marcus, and somehow stay awake all day looking after 3 children. Then I'd collapse into bed at 8 in the evening, sleep for 3 hours and do it all again. It was unsustainable. I knew it was unsustainable. But what choice did I have? We needed my income. The kids needed care during the day. Marcus's job paid better, so he couldn't be the one to cut his hours. That I turned into a zombie. I'd catch myself standing in the middle of rooms, forgetting what I'd gone there for. I'd start sentences and lose the words halfway through. I'd drift off during conversations, my brain simply shutting down from sheer exhaustion. You look tired, Marcus would say, as if it was just an observation and not an indictment of how we'd structured our entire lives. I am tired, I'd reply. I'm working full-time and being a full-time parent. I'm doing 2 jobs. So am I, he'd say, genuinely believing it. In his mind, his 9-to-5 job and his every other weekend parenting added up to the same workload as my night shifts plus 24/7 childcare. The maths didn't work, but you can't argue with someone who refuses to see the inequality built into the equation. The final straw, or what I thought was the final straw before yesterday proved me spectacularly wrong, came last year. Emma got sick. Really sick. She'd had a cold that wouldn't shift and I kept taking her to the GP insisting something was wrong, but they kept saying it was just a virus, give it time. Then one night she developed a fever of 40 degrees. She was confused, couldn't recognize me, kept saying her head hurt. I knew. I don't know how, but I knew something was terribly wrong. I called an ambulance. Marcus was at a work dinner. Some important client thing he couldn't miss and I couldn't reach him. So I went with Emma alone, leaving Olivia and Samuel with a neighbor who'd come over in her dressing gown. Meningitis. Bacterial meningitis. The doctors told me another few hours and we might have lost her. She spent 3 days in intensive care, hooked up to machines, pumped full of antibiotics, fighting for her life. I didn't leave that hospital for 72 hours. I held her hand, stroked her hair, whispered stories and songs and promises that everything would be okay. Marcus came for visiting hours. 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours in the evening. Then he'd leave, go home to sleep in our comfortable bed, maintain some semblance of normal routine for the other kids. One of us has to keep things stable, he said when I asked why he wasn't staying. And you're better at the hospital stuff anyway. Better at the hospital stuff. As if watching your daughter fight for her life was a skill set rather than a nightmare. When Emma recovered, and thank God, thank every God she did recover, I expected something to change. I expected Marcus to realize how fragile life is, how precious our children are, how we needed to restructure everything because we'd almost lost our baby. Instead he complained that the house was a mess. That's when I knew. Our marriage was over. Not because of the mess comment specifically, but because of what it represented. His complete inability to see beyond his own needs and comfort. His refusal to acknowledge that I was drowning. His conviction that his life, his work, his stress was somehow more important than mine. I asked for a divorce. He seemed almost relieved. The divorce took 8 months. 8 months of solicitor meetings and financial disclosure forms and arguments about who got what. 8 months of dividing up a life we'd built together, reducing love and hope and shared history to monetary values and custody percentages. Marcus moved out, got himself a nice flat in Canary Wharf. One of those new builds with a gym on the ground floor and a concierge who says good morning. 1 bedroom, big enough for him and a sofa bed for when the kids visited, but not big enough for them to live there full time. I stayed in the house in Bethnal Green with 3 children and a mortgage I could barely afford. We tried to sell it, split the proceeds, but the market was slow and we owed more than it was worth anyway, so I stayed put, paying more than half my salary to the bank each month. The custody arrangement was standard. The kids would live with me during the week, spend alternate weekends with Marcus, plus Wednesday evenings. He'd pay child maintenance, £800 a month, which his solicitor argued was generous but which barely covered food and clothes for 3 growing children. For the first few months it worked. Marcus would pick up the kids on Friday evening, have them for the weekend, drop them back Sunday evening at 6. He'd take them to the park, to the cinema, to Pizza Express. He'd buy them treats and let them stay up late and generally be the fun parent while I was the one enforcing bedtimes and homework and vegetable consumption. The kids loved it. They'd come back on Sunday evening buzzing with excitement about their weekend with Daddy, and I'd feel this ugly little twist of jealousy in my chest. Not because I begrudged them happiness, God no, but because it was so easy for him. He got to be fun dad while I was tired mom who shouted about dirty rooms and unfinished homework. But then cracks started appearing in his every other weekend arrangement too. He'd call Friday afternoon, apologetic but firm. Something had come up at work, could we push the weekend to next week? Or he'd bring them back early Sunday morning instead of evening because he had plans. Or he'd forget it was his Wednesday and I'd have to call him, kids already dressed and waiting, only to be told he couldn't make it. The maintenance payments started coming late. First by a few days, then by a week, then not at all some months. I'd text him trying to be reasonable. Hi, the payment didn't come through? He'd respond with excuses. Unexpected expenses, cash flow problems, he'd sort it next week. Next week would come and go. I'd chase him again. He'd get defensive, stop harassing me about money. As if requesting the legally agreed child support was harassment. I started working more shifts. Every overtime opportunity, every bank holiday, every weekend slot that came up, I took it. I'd work 3 12-hour night shifts in a row, come home at 7 in the morning, get the kids ready for school and nursery, survive the day on coffee and anxiety, then go back to work that night. My mum helped when she could, but she lives in Bristol and has her own health problems. Friends? What friends? When you're working night shifts and raising 3 kids alone, friendships become another casualty of survival mode. Those casual coffee dates and girls' nights out. They're for people who have time and energy and babysitters. I became a machine. Wake up, feed kids, dress kids, school run, nursery drop-off, go home, sleep 3 hours, wake up, collect kids, homework, dinner, bath, bedtime, get ready for work, leave for night shift, work 12 hours, come home, repeat. Every day the same. Every day just trying to survive until tomorrow. And Marcus? Marcus was living his best life. I'd see it on Facebook. The algorithm loves to show you what you don't want to see. Him at restaurants, at concerts, on a weekend trip to Amsterdam with his mates. Living the carefree life of a man whose responsibilities ended at 6 p.m. on Sunday evenings. The kids started noticing. Olivia, who was 7 by then and old enough to understand the basics, asked me why Daddy had nicer things than we did. Why did he have a big TV and we had an old one with a line through the screen? Why did he go on holidays and we never did? Why did his fridge always have treats and ours only had the essentials? How do you explain economic inequality to a 7-year-old? How do you say, because Daddy keeps all his money for himself while I spend all mine on keeping you alive? You don't. You just say, different people have different priorities, darling, and hope that's enough. It wasn't enough. She started acting out at school. Nothing serious, just low-level defiance, refusing to follow instructions, answering back to teachers. The school called me in for a meeting, 3 teachers sitting across from me with concerned expressions, talking about behavioral issues, and acting out, and difficult home circumstances. We understand she's been through a lot with the divorce, the head teacher said, in that carefully sympathetic voice people use when they think you're failing as a parent. But we need to see improvement. Improvement. As if I had any capacity left to improve anything. As if I wasn't already running on fumes, barely keeping my head above water, doing everything humanly possible to keep 3 children alive and fed and clothed. I tried talking to Marcus about it. Called him one evening after the kids were in bed, explained what the school had said, asked if we could present a united front, maybe coordinate our approaches to discipline and routine. "She's fine with me," he said. "No behavioral problems at all. Maybe she's picking up on your stress." My stress. As if stress was something I'd chosen, a character flaw rather than a natural response to being the sole person responsible for 3 human beings' well-being. "I'm stressed because I'm doing this alone," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "You see them 4 days a month. I have them the other 26. That's what we agreed in court." "I know what we agreed. I'm saying maybe you could do more. Maybe take them an extra weekend, or have them Wednesday night through Thursday morning so I can get a full night's sleep." "I can't do that," he said. "I've got work." "So do I, Marcus. I work full-time. Plus I'm their full-time parent. That's not my fault. You wanted primary custody." And there was the truth he'd never quite said out loud before. He saw the kids as my responsibility. He'd fulfilled his obligation, every other weekend access, £800 a month when he remembered to pay it, and anything beyond that was asking too much. I hung up. Sat in my kitchen in the dark and cried for the first time in months. Not pretty crying, not the tears that slide gracefully down your cheeks in films. Ugly crying. The kind where you can't breathe and your face goes blotchy and snot runs down your face. I cried for the marriage I'd thought I had. For the partner I'd thought Marcus was. For the life I'd imagined where we raised our children together. I should have slept. God knows I needed it. But I was too wound up, adrenaline and anger mixing in my veins. I texted my mum, "He's not paying again." She replied immediately, "I can send you some money, darling." Not much, but I told her no. She's on a fixed pension, barely managing herself. I couldn't take money from my 68-year-old mother to subsidize my ex-husband's refusal to support his children. I called the bank instead. Asked about the mortgage, whether I could defer a payment. They put me on hold for 15 minutes. Because apparently time is something they think struggling single mothers have in abundance. Then came back with the answer. Yes, I could defer, but it would affect my credit score and add interest to the total amount owed. Of course it would. There's always a penalty for being poor. I tried to sleep. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling, mind racing through calculations. If I didn't pay the mortgage this month, I could cover the nursery fees and council tax. But then I'd be 2 months behind on the mortgage and the bank's threatening letters would escalate to court proceedings. If I didn't pay the nursery, they'd give the twins places to children on the waiting list, and I'd have no childcare, which meant I couldn't work. If I didn't pay council tax, they'd eventually get a court order, add fees, send bailiffs. Every option was bad. There was no good choice, just varying degrees of disaster. At noon I gave up on sleep. Got up, had a shower, tried to make myself feel human. It didn't work. I still felt like a zombie running on empty, held together by caffeine and sheer bloody-mindedness. I checked my bank account again. Maybe I'd miscalculated. Maybe there was money I'd forgotten about. Maybe, well, still overdrawn. Still drowning. That's when I decided to call Marcus. I don't know what I thought I'd achieve. He'd already made it clear he wasn't paying this month. But I needed to do something. I needed him to understand that this wasn't just numbers on a screen. This was food and heat and the roof over his children's heads. He answered on the 4th ring, annoyed. "What?" "I need the money, Marcus. Today." "I told you I don't have it right now." "Then get it. Borrow it from your mother, use your credit card, I don't care. But I need £800 by tonight or I can't pay the mortgage." "That's not my problem." I felt something white-hot flash through me. Not my problem. The mortgage on the house where his children lived wasn't his problem. Not your, I couldn't finish. Couldn't find words adequate to express the rage. "Look, Charlotte, you need to sort out your finances. Stop living beyond your means." "I'm not living beyond my means. I'm living at the absolute minimum, stretching every pound, working myself to death, and you're telling me to budget better while you drive around in a Mercedes. That's for work. It's a status symbol. You could have a Ford Focus for work, but you wanted something flashy, something that says you're successful, and you're paying for that instead of supporting your children. My car payments are none of your business. They are when you're claiming you can't afford child maintenance." He sighed. That long-suffering sigh I knew so well, The one that said I was being unreasonable and emotional and difficult. What do you want from me, Charlotte? I want you to be a father. I want you to prioritize your children over your lifestyle. I want you to step up and share this load instead of treating them like a hobby you indulge in every other weekend. I do prioritize them. Then pay your maintenance. Turn up when you're supposed to. Have them more than 4 days a month. Actually parent instead of just visiting. You have primary custody. That was your choice. Because you didn't want 50-50. Stop rewriting history. We were shouting now. Proper shouting, all pretense of civility abandoned. And then Marcus said the thing that changed everything. You know what? Fine. You want me to have them more? You want me to step up? Then you have them. Take them for the week. See how easy it is when you're working full-time. That's not what No, I'm serious. Bring them over tonight. I'll have them until next Monday. Give you a break since you're so overwhelmed. Marcus, I'm not asking for a break. Sure sounds like it. Sounds like you can't cope. Sounds like maybe you're not managing as well as you think you are. The implication was clear. I was failing. I was struggling. I was the problem, not him. I'm managing fine, I said through gritted teeth. I'm managing despite you, not because of you. Whatever helps you sleep at night, Charlotte. And that's when I lost it. Completely lost it. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I do need a break. Maybe you should have them. Not just for a week. Permanently. You think this is so easy? You think I'm just complaining for no reason? Then you do it. Full time. Be their primary parent. Wake up at night when they're sick. Deal with school runs and homework and tantrums. Pay for everything they need. See how long you last. There was a pause. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. You're not serious. Why not? You're their father. You should be capable of raising them. Charlotte, you can't just give away your kids because you're tired. I'm not tired, Marcus. I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. I'm drowning. And you're standing on the shore watching me go under while complaining that I'm making too much noise. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. That word again. The one men use when women express any emotion that makes them uncomfortable. Because from where I'm standing, I've been begging you for help for years. Begging you to be more involved, to pay your maintenance on time, to see your children more than 4 days a month. And you've done nothing. So maybe it's time you stepped up and actually parented. I'm not having this conversation, he said. You're clearly stressed and not thinking clearly. Oh, I'm thinking very clearly. Clearer than I have in years. You want to know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that single mothers are treated like martyrs or failures, and there's no in-between. I'm thinking that society expects women to sacrifice everything for their children while men get praised for showing up occasionally. I'm thinking that I've given up everything. My career, my social life, my identity, to raise our children while you've given up nothing. That's not true. It is true. You live exactly the same life you lived before kids, just with occasional visits from them. Meanwhile, my entire existence revolves around keeping them alive and fed and happy. And I'm so tired, Marcus. I'm so tired I can't think straight. I'm so tired I cry in my car before going into work because I don't know how I'm going to get through another shift. I'm so tired I fantasize about having a car accident. Nothing serious, just bad enough that I'd have to stay in hospital for a few days and someone else would have to take care of everything. Silence on the other end. I'd said too much. Revealed too much. But I couldn't stop now. So yes, I continued, voice shaking. You have them. This week, next week, every week. I'll move into a studio flat, send you maintenance, visit every other weekend. Experience what I've been living for the past 18 months. Charlotte, what? What could you possibly say that would make this better? That you'll try harder? That you'll do better? You've been saying that for years and nothing changes. Nothing ever changes except me getting more exhausted and you getting more comfortable with your minimal involvement. The kids need their mother. And they need their father. But funny how nobody says that when you're canceling weekends and skipping maintenance payments. Funny how it's only the mother who's essential, who's irreplaceable, who's failing if she can't do everything perfectly all the time. I was crying now. Proper crying, years of frustration and exhaustion pouring out. I can't do this anymore, I said quietly. I just can't. Marcus's voice changed. Became careful, cautious. The voice you use when you think someone's about to break completely. Charlotte, listen to me. You're burnt out. I get it. But you can't just walk away from your kids. That's not how this works. Why not? You did. I didn't walk away. I'm still their father. You're a part-time father. A weekend visitor. And you know what? That looks pretty good from where I'm standing. That looks like freedom. You don't mean that. Don't I? Because right now, the idea of being the parent who gets to leave, who gets to have a life outside of parenting, who gets to miss them instead of being overwhelmed by them, that sounds like paradise. Another long silence. So what are you saying? Marcus asked finally. You want to swap custody? Did I? I didn't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was operating on rage and exhaustion, saying things I'd never let myself think before. I'm saying I need help. Real help. Not promises you won't keep or money you won't pay. I'm saying I can't be the only parent anymore. I'm saying something has to change or I'm going to completely fall apart. Okay, he said in that patronizing tone people use when they're humoring someone they think is being irrational. Hey, why don't you drop the kids with my mum for a few days? Give yourself a break. Clear your head. We can talk about long-term arrangements when you're calmer. Drop the kids with his mum, Patricia, who lived in Islington in her beautiful Georgian townhouse with her pristine furniture and her carefully ordered life. Your mum. I said slowly. Yeah. She's always saying she doesn't see them enough. She'd be happy to have them for a bit. Just till you sort yourself out. Just till I sort myself out. As if this was my problem to fix. My failure to manage. But the idea of a few days without responsibility, it was intoxicating. Dangerous. Seductive in a way that terrified me. Your mum's never had all three of them overnight, I said. She's had Olivia for a weekend once but never all three. She'll be fine. She raised me and my sisters. 30 years ago, Marcus. She's 68 now. The twins are a lot. Emma needs her inhaler. Samuel still wets the bed sometimes. Olivia's been having nightmares. She'll cope. She's not helpless. I thought about Patricia. Always so composed, so put together. Always making little comments about how children were different in her day, how they didn't have these behavioral issues and special needs and constant scheduling. But she'd also said during the divorce that she'd help. Family supports family, she'd said over tea in her immaculate kitchen. Whatever you need. I don't know, I said. Charlotte. Marcus's voice was firm now, decisive. You're clearly at the end of your rope. Take a few days. Rest. Sleep. Sort your head out. The kids will be fine with mum. Then we can sit down, adults, and work out a better arrangement going forward. A better arrangement. He made it sound so simple, so reasonable. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay. Great. Drop them off tonight. Mum's home. Does she know? I'll call her now, let her know they're coming. She'll be thrilled. Thrilled. I doubted that. But I was too tired to argue anymore. We hung up. I sat in my kitchen, heart pounding, wondering what I'd just agreed to. I collected the twins from nursery at 3 p.m., then walked to get Olivia from school. They were all excited, chattering about their day, oblivious to the conversation I'd had with their father. We're going to visit Grandma Patricia tonight, I told them as we walked home. Olivia's face lit up. Really? Is Daddy there too? No, just Grandma. For a sleepover. All of us? Samuel asked, surprised. He was the quiet one, always observing, always thinking. All of you? Won't that be fun? Emma frowned. But I don't want to. I want to stay home. Of course she did. Emma hated change, hated disruption to routine. It was one of the lingering effects from her NICU stay. She needed everything to be predictable, controllable. It'll be an adventure, I said with forced enthusiasm. Grandma's house is lovely. She has that big garden. How long? Olivia asked. Good question. How long? Marcus had said a few days, but what did that mean? 3 days. A week. Just for a little while, I said vaguely. Until Mummy gets some things sorted out. At home I packed their bags. Clothes for each of them, enough for a week just in case. Pajamas, underwear, socks. Emma's inhaler with clear written instructions. Samuel's special blanket that he couldn't sleep without. Olivia's current library book. Favorite toys. Toothbrushes. I moved mechanically, brain numb, not letting myself think too hard about what I was doing. The kids watched TV while I packed. I made them an early dinner. Fish fingers and baked beans, nothing fancy, and they ate while I stood at the counter pretending to scroll through my phone but actually staring at nothing. "Mummy, aren't you eating?" Olivia asked. "I'm not hungry, darling." She frowned. Even at 7 she was perceptive. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just tired from work." "You're always tired from work." "True. Painfully true." At 5:30 I loaded them into the car. 3 children, 3 bags, 3 car seats. The drive to Islington took 40 minutes in evening traffic, the kids getting progressively more restless. "I need a wee," Emma announced as we hit gridlock in Hackney. "Can you hold it? We're nearly there." "I need it now." We weren't nearly there. We were at least 20 minutes away. But I couldn't stop, couldn't find anywhere to pull over in the traffic. "Just hold it, Emma. Please. Just a little longer." She whimpered but held it, squirming in her seat. I felt like the worst mother in the world that we finally arrived at Patricia's house at 6:15. It was one of those beautiful Georgian terraced houses, white stucco front, black iron railings, the kind of place that appeared in interior design magazines. Patricia had lived there for 30 years, raised 3 children there, and it still looked pristine that I pulled up outside, my battered Ford Fiesta looking shabby next to the Mercedes and Range Rovers parked along the street. "Right, we're here," I said with false brightness. Emma was out of the car first, doing the desperate pee dance. "I need the toilet." I rang the doorbell. Patricia answered within seconds. She must have been waiting for us, wearing cream trousers and a pale blue cashmere jumper. Not the outfit you'd choose if you were expecting 3 young children. "Charlotte, hello. Marcus said you'd be popping by. I need a wee." Emma interrupted, hopping from foot to foot. Patricia looked momentarily taken aback, then smiled. "Of course, darling. Come in, it's just down the hall." Emma shot past her. I heard the bathroom door slam. Come in," Patricia said, ushering us into the hallway. What a lovely surprise. A surprise. Marcus hadn't told her. Of course he hadn't. "Marcus said he'd called you," I said carefully. "He did. He said you were dropping the children by for a visit. But I thought it was just for the evening." "No. They're staying. For a few days." Patricia's smile faltered. "Staying." "Yes. I've packed bags, everything they need. Emma's inhaler is in the side pocket with instructions. Samuel's bedtime routine is written down." "Charlotte, I don't understand." "Marcus said a visit." Of course he did. Of course he'd left the difficult conversation to me. Olivia and Samuel were standing in the hallway, clutching their bags, looking uncertain. Emma emerged from the bathroom slightly less desperate. "Could we talk in the kitchen?" I asked quietly. Patricia hesitated, then nodded. "Children, why don't you go into the living room? There are some biscuits in the tin on the coffee table." They went and I followed Patricia into her kitchen. It was exactly as I remembered. Pristine white cabinets, marble countertops, everything in its place. Not a speck of dirt, not a fingerprint on any surface. "What's going on?" Patricia asked, her voice careful. Where did I even start? "I need help," I said simply. "I'm drowning. Working full-time, raising 3 kids alone, barely making ends meet. Marcus isn't paying maintenance consistently, he's not having them more than 4 days a month, and I can't do it anymore." Patricia's expression was difficult to read. Concern maybe. Or discomfort. "I see," she said slowly. "And Marcus knows they're staying?" "It was his idea. He suggested it on the phone. Said you'd be happy to have them for a few days." "Did he?" Not a question. A statement, flat with suppressed annoyance. "You said you'd help," I reminded her, hearing the desperation in my voice. "During the divorce you said family supports family. That whatever I needed." "Yes, I did say that. And I meant it. But Charlotte, I'm 68 years old. I haven't had 3 young children overnight in 30 years. I'm not sure I'm equipped. Please." I was begging now, all pride abandoned. "Just for a few days. So I can sleep. So I can think. So I can just breathe." She looked at me properly, then really looked at me, and I wondered what she saw. Probably the dark circles under my eyes, the weight I'd lost because I forgot to eat more often than not, the exhaustion that had become my default state. "You look terrible, dear," she said gently. "I feel terrible. Have you thought about seeing someone? A therapist? This level of stress isn't normal." If you believe every woman deserves better, support this channel by subscribing. My life isn't normal. Single parenting 3 kids while working full-time isn't normal. What would be abnormal is if I wasn't stressed. She nodded slowly. Fair point. So will you help? Another pause. I could see her calculating. The disruption, the exhaustion, the reality of what she was agreeing to. All right, she said finally. A few days. Let's say until Friday, that's 3 nights. But Charlotte, you need to use this time properly. Rest, yes, but also think about long-term solutions. This isn't sustainable. I know it's not sustainable. That's why I'm here. We went through everything. Emma's asthma medication, Samuel's bedtime routine, Olivia's homework schedule, dietary requirements, emergency contacts. Patricia took notes, looking increasingly overwhelmed. And they're used to routine, I stressed. They need structure, predictability. Emma especially, she gets anxious when things change. I understand. Did she? I wasn't sure. But I was out of options. The children came back into the kitchen, Emma clutching a biscuit. Right, munchkins, I said, kneeling down to their level. You're going to stay with Grandma for a few days. Mummy's got some things to sort out and you're going to have a lovely time here. Olivia frowned. Why can't you stay too? Because Mummy needs to work, darling. But I'll call you every day, I promise. When are you coming back? Samuel asked, his voice small. Soon. Very soon. Be good for Grandma, okay? I hugged each of them. Olivia clung tight, sensing something wrong. Emma was already distracted by the biscuits. Samuel wrapped his arms around my neck and whispered, I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, baby. So much. I stood up, not looking at Patricia because if I saw judgment in her face, I might break down completely. I'll call tomorrow morning, I told her. Check how the night went. Yes, all right. I walked to the door. Turn back. The children were standing in a little line watching me leave, and I had this sudden visceral urge to gather them up and take them home. But I didn't. I walked out of that beautiful house, got into my car and drove away. That I didn't go home. I couldn't. The thought of walking into that empty flat with toys scattered everywhere and their beds unmade and their presents in every corner, I couldn't face it. I drove to Camden, parked by the canal and just sat there as darkness fell. My phone rang repeatedly. I ignored it. Turned it off eventually just to stop the buzzing. I sat in that car for hours watching people walk past. Couples holding hands. Groups of friends laughing. Teenagers on bikes. All these people living their lives, unburdened by impossible choices and crushing responsibility. What had I done? I'd left my children. Dropped them off at their grandmother's house and driven away. I was that mother. The one who couldn't cope. The one who abandoned her kids. Except I hadn't abandoned them, had I? I'd left them somewhere safe with family for a few days. That wasn't abandonment. That was, what was it? Respite care? A break? Self-preservation? It felt like abandonment. I must have fallen asleep eventually because I woke at 3 a.m. freezing cold, neck stiff, disoriented. For a moment I didn't remember where I was or why. Then it came flooding back. The children. Patricia's house. The drive away. I turned my phone back on. It exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls from Patricia. 8 from Marcus. 3 from his sister Sophie. 2 from his other sister Emily. Dozens of text messages. Patricia at 7:47 p.m. Charlotte, Emma's crying for you. Please call. Patricia at 8:23 p.m. We've managed to settle her with a story. Samuel wants his special teddy but I can't find it. Is it in his bag? Patricia at 9:15 p.m. Charlotte, I really need you to answer your phone. The children are distressed. Patricia at 10:04 p.m. Emma woke up not knowing where she was. He's frightened. Please call. Patricia at 11:37 p.m. I've been up for hours. This is harder than I expected. We need to discuss arrangements. Then Marcus at 6:52 a.m. Mom called me. What the hell are you doing? She's exhausted. The kids barely slept. Emma had an asthma attack. You need to call now. Sophie at 7:15 a.m. Charlotte, this isn't fair on Mom. She's not young anymore. She didn't sign up for this. Emily at 7:33 a.m. You need to collect the children today. Mom's 68 and hasn't slept. This is cruel. Marcus again at 8:41 a.m. Fine. Don't answer. I'm picking them up at lunchtime. You've made your point. Hope it was worth it. I stared at the messages, hands shaking. It was 3:07 a.m. on Thursday morning. The children had been at Patricia's for less than 24 hours. Less than one day, and it was already too much for her. But I'd managed it alone for 18 months. Alone, working full-time with no support and no breaks. And nobody had called me saying it was too hard, it wasn't fair, I was suffering. The double standard was breathtaking. I called Patricia. It rang 4 times before she answered, voice thick with exhaustion. Charlotte. Thank God. I'm sorry. I fell asleep in my car, my phone was off. The children need you, Emma especially. She's been asking for you all night. Guilt crashed over me like a wave. Is she okay? Her asthma. She had a small attack around 10 p.m. I gave her the inhaler like you showed me and she calmed down. But Charlotte, this is too much. I can't manage 3 young children overnight. I thought I could, but I was wrong. It's been one night. A night where I didn't sleep at all. Samuel wet the bed at midnight. Emma was up every 2 hours crying. Olivia had a nightmare at 4 a.m. I'm exhausted. I'm too old for this. Too old for this. But I wasn't too young for it. I was supposed to manage alone night after night, but one night was too much for her? You promised, I said quietly. During the divorce. You said you'd help. I did help. I had them for visits, I babysat when you needed it. But this is different. This is asking me to be their primary carer, and I can't do that. I'm not asking you to be their primary carer. Just for a few days. Charlotte. Her voice was firm now. I'm bringing them back to you today. I'm sorry, but I can't do this. Please. No. This isn't negotiable. Marcus is coming to collect them at lunchtime, and you need to figure out what you're going to do. She hung up. I sat in my car in the dark, in the silence, and understood with perfect clarity. There was no help coming. There never had been. All those promises, all that talk of family supporting family, it was conditional. It was theoretical. It evaporated the moment it required actual sacrifice. I was alone. I'd always been alone. I'd just been stupid enough to think that might change. I drove home at 4 a.m. Let myself into my flat. Made tea that I didn't drink. Sat in the silence I'd thought I wanted and discovered it was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Marcus called at 7 a.m. Are you happy now? No greeting, just immediate anger. Marcus. My mum's been up all night. Emma's been crying for you. Samuel wet the bed and he hasn't done that in months. Olivia asked if you're ever coming back. This is what you wanted. To traumatize your own children. Every word was a knife. That wasn't what I wanted, I said quietly. Then what did you want? Because from where I'm standing you just dumped 3 kids on my elderly mother without warning, turned off your phone and disappeared. That's abandonment, Charlotte. That's neglect. I asked for help. You didn't ask for help. You had some kind of breakdown and made everyone else deal with the consequences. I had a breakdown because I've been doing this alone for 18 months. Because you don't pay maintenance, you don't have them more than 4 days a month, and you expect me to manage everything with no support. So your solution is to abandon them? That word again. Abandon. I left them somewhere safe. You left them with a woman who's 68 years old and hasn't had kids overnight in decades. Without asking her first. Without preparing them. My mum thought they were coming for a visit and instead you disappeared. You said she'd be happy to help. I said she'd have them for an evening. Not overnight. Not multiple nights. And certainly not without any notice or preparation. I closed my eyes. He was right. God help me, he was right. I'd been so desperate, so exhausted I hadn't thought it through properly. I'm sorry, I said. Sorry doesn't cut it. I'm collecting them at noon. And then you and I are going back to court. My blood went cold. What? I'm filing for full custody. I have witnesses. My mother, my sisters, who will testify that you're unstable, that you abandoned your children, that you're unfit to be their primary carer. Marcus, no. Please. I made a mistake, I was desperate. You made a choice. Actions have consequences. Please. I'll come get them now. I'll apologize to your mum. Too late. I've already contacted my solicitor. We're documenting everything. The abandoned children, your refusal to answer your phone, the distress you caused. This is going to court, Charlotte. You can't take my children. Watch me. He hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in my hand, world crumbling around me. He was going to take them. He was going to use one moment of desperate weakness to take my children away forever. I called Patricia back. She answered immediately. Charlotte. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have put that on you. I wasn't thinking clearly. Please, I'll come get them now. Marcus is already on his way. Patricia, please. Tell him not to do this. Tell him it was a mistake, that I'm not unfit, that I just needed help. I'm sorry, dear. But I do think Marcus might be right. What you did, it wasn't normal. It wasn't okay. The children need stability, and right now you're not providing that. I've provided stability for 18 months. Boom. On a healthcare assistant's salary. Working full-time and being their full-time parent. Where was the concern for stability when Marcus was canceling weekends and skipping maintenance payments? That's different. How? How is it different? She paused. Then quietly, because you're their mother. Mothers don't leave. There was the double standard spoken out loud. Mothers don't leave. Fathers can be absent, unreliable, minimal in their involvement, but mothers? Mothers are supposed to sacrifice everything, endure anything, never crack under the pressure. I'm human, I said, voice breaking. I'm a human being who made a mistake. That doesn't make me unfit. That makes me exhausted. I'm sorry, Charlotte. I truly am. But I have to put the children first. She hung up. I called Sophie. She let it ring out. I called Emily. Help this message reach someone who needs it. Like, share and subscribe. I was blocked. Shut out. Labeled as the problem, the failure, the bad mother. I texted Marcus. Please. Can we talk? Face to face? Before you do anything legal? He didn't reply. I tried again. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. But please don't take them from me. They're my whole world. Nothing. Marcus, please. I'm begging you. Finally, 3 dots appeared. Then I'll have them back to you by 8 p.m. tonight. But this conversation isn't over. My solicitor will be in touch. At least I'd get them back. At least I had that. But for how long? They came home at 8 p.m. exactly as Marcus had said. He pulled up outside and I watched from the window as he got them out of the car. They looked tired, subdued. Emma was clutching her inhaler. Samuel had his special blanket. Olivia walked with her head down. I met them at the door. Olivia looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Wariness. Like she wasn't sure if she could trust me anymore. Hi, darlings, I said, kneeling down. I'm so sorry about last night. Why did you leave us? Olivia asked, her voice small. I needed to sort some things out. I shouldn't have left you like that. I'm sorry. Emma pushed past me into the flat, heading straight for the TV. Samuel hesitated, then wrapped his arms around my neck. I missed you, Mummy. I missed you too, baby. So much. Marcus stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face like stone. We need to talk, he said. Come. Not with them here. Tomorrow. My solicitor wants to meet with both of us. Marcus, please. Let's not involve solicitors. Let's work this out between us, like we've been working everything out for the past 18 months. No. This needs legal intervention. I made one mistake. One massive mistake that traumatized 3 children and my elderly mother. That's not nothing, Charlotte. You're right. It's not nothing. But it's not abandonment either. It's not grounds for taking them away from me. He laughed, bitter. You think any judge is going to look at what you did and think you're fit to have primary custody? You dropped your kids off without notice, disappeared, didn't answer your phone while they were crying for you. My solicitor says it's a clear case. Your solicitor wants to bill you for a custody battle. That doesn't mean they're right. We'll see what the court says. He turned to leave. Marcus, wait. Please. You said something earlier. On the phone. When we were fighting. You said that no man would want a single mother of 3 children. He froze. What? You said that. When I was asking you to step up, to be more involved. You said that's why I should be grateful for what you do give, because no man would want me with 3 kids. His face went red. I didn't say that. You did. And that's what made me snap. That's what made me think, fine. If I'm going to be alone anyway, if I'm going to be undateable and unlovable because I had children, then why am I killing myself trying to do this alone? Why not make him actually parent them? I never said you were unlovable. You implied it. You weaponized my circumstances against me. And then when I cracked under the pressure, when I asked for the help you'd promised, you're using that against me too. He was silent. I'm their mother, I said quietly. I've given them everything. My body, my career, my identity, my health, my sanity. I've sacrificed parts of myself I'm never getting back. And one moment of desperate weakness doesn't erase years of devotion. One bad decision doesn't make me unfit. It makes me human. Charlotte. If you take them from me, you'll destroy them. They need their mother. Not your mother, not a childminder, not alternate weekends. They need me. And yes, I'm imperfect and exhausted and I make mistakes. But I love them more than anything in this world. His expression softened slightly. Just slightly. Then prove it, he said. Tomorrow. With my solicitor. Prove that you can be trusted to put them first. He left. I closed the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. Olivia was watching me from the sofa. Mummy, are you and Daddy fighting again? We're discussing things, darling. Grandma said you weren't well. That you needed a rest. Are you sick? How did I answer that? Was I sick? Or was I just sick of this life, this impossible situation, this endless exhaustion? I'm just very tired, sweetheart. Work and looking after you three, it's a lot. We're too much, she said matter-of-factly. That's why you left us. My heart broke. Actually broke. No. No, darling, that's not true. You're not too much. You're everything. I left because I made a bad choice, not because of you. Never because of you. She didn't look convinced. Samuel was already asleep on the sofa, exhausted from his disturbed night. Emma was zoned out in front of the TV, sucking her thumb, something she only did when stressed. I'd done this. I'd caused this damage. And now I had to figure out how to repair it. The meeting with Marcus's solicitor happened 2 days later, on Saturday morning. Marcus had arranged childcare, his mother again, though I'd had to practically beg her to agree, so we could talk without the kids present. The solicitor's office was in Marylebone, all glass and chrome and expensive furniture. Her name was Victoria, something double-barreled, and she looked exactly how I'd expected. Sharp suit, sharper haircut, the kind of woman who'd never made a decision in her life that wasn't calculated and rational. She gestured for us to sit, then opened a file folder thick with documents. Mrs. Hayes. Not Mrs. anymore. Ms. Hayes. I've reviewed the situation with my client and I must say, the circumstances are concerning. Here we go. On Wednesday evening, you dropped 3 children, aged 7, 6 and 6, at your ex-mother-in-law's residence without adequate notice or preparation. You then made yourself uncontactable for approximately 12 hours while the children were distressed and your ex-mother-in-law was overwhelmed. Is this accurate? That's what happened, yes. But the context. I'm just establishing facts first. We'll get to context. She made a note. During this time, one child, Emma, age 6, experienced an asthma attack. Another child, Samuel, age 6, wet the bed, which according to your ex-husband hadn't happened in months. The eldest, Olivia, age 7, asked if you were coming back or leaving forever. Does this sound correct? Every word was designed to make me sound like a monster. Yes, I said quietly. And your reason for this action? I looked at Marcus. He was staring at the table, jaw tight. I was exhausted, I said. I've been the primary carer for 18 months, working full-time night shifts while managing everything alone. Marcus hasn't been paying maintenance consistently. That's not true, Marcus interjected. I've paid most months. Most months isn't the agreement. The court order says every month. You've missed 3 payments in the last 6 months. Victoria made another note. We can verify payment records. Continue, Ms. Hayes. I asked for help. I asked Marcus to have them more often, to step up, to share the load. He refused. His mother had previously said she'd help if needed. During the divorce, she explicitly said family supports family. So when Marcus suggested leaving them with her for a few days, I agreed. He suggested it? Victoria asked, looking at Marcus. I suggested maybe one night, Marcus said quickly. So Charlotte could rest. Not multiple nights without notice. But you did suggest using your mother as childcare? Victoria pressed. For an evening. Not as a long-term solution. Victoria made more notes. I couldn't tell whose side she was on, or if she was on any side at all, just documenting everything for whatever court case would inevitably follow. Ms. Hayes, do you understand why your actions are concerning? She asked, looking directly at me. Of course I do. I'm not stupid. I know how it looks. It looks like abandonment. It looks like a mother who couldn't cope and made an impulsive, harmful decision that put her children at risk. They weren't at risk. They were with their grandmother. An unprepared grandmother who didn't have the necessary medical supplies, who wasn't briefed on routines or needs, who is 68 years old and hasn't cared for young children in decades. If Emma's asthma attack had been more severe, if your ex-mother-in-law hadn't been able to find the inhaler or administer it correctly, that child could have died. The words hit like physical blows. Could have died. But she didn't, I said, voice shaking. I left clear instructions. The inhaler was labeled. Emma knows how to use it herself. A 6-year-old knows how to self-administer emergency medication in the middle of a panic attack? I had no answer to that. Victoria sat back, satisfied she'd made her point. Mr. Thompson, what outcome are you seeking? Marcus finally looked up, looked at me. Something complicated passed across his face. Anger, yes, but also something that might have been regret. I want primary custody, he said. With Charlotte having visitation rights. Supervised, initially, until we're confident she's stable. Supervised visitation. Like I was a danger to my own children. No, I said. Absolutely not. You don't get to say no, Marcus said. Not after what you did. What I did was ask for help in a desperate moment. What you've done is failed to parent consistently for 18 months. Which is worse. One is neglect. The other is abandonment. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, your minimal involvement looks a lot like emotional abandonment. You see them 4 days a month. You cancel on them, you don't pay for them regularly, you treat them like an inconvenience that interferes with your real life. That's abandonment too. It's just socially acceptable when fathers do it. Victoria held up a hand. This isn't productive. Let's focus on solutions. Ms. Hayes, would you be willing to undergo a psychological evaluation? Why? To assess your mental state. To determine whether you're fit to have primary custody. I'm fit. I've been their primary parent their entire lives. One bad decision doesn't change that. Actually, in family court, one bad decision absolutely can change everything. Especially when that decision involves abandoning young children. That word again. Abandoning. It was going to follow me forever. I didn't abandon them, I said for what felt like the 100th time. I left them somewhere safe for a short period. That's not the same thing. The court may disagree. We sat in silence for a moment. Marcus was staring at his hands. I was trying not to cry. What if? I started, then stopped. Did I really want to say this? But what choice did I have? What if we did shared custody? 50-50. Alternate weeks. I'd get them 1 week, Marcus gets them the next. Marcus looked up, surprised. Victoria raised an eyebrow. You'd agree to that? Marcus asked. If it means keeping my children, yes. If it means not having supervised visits like I'm some kind of criminal, yes. 50-50 custody would require significant changes to Mr. Thompson's work schedule, Victoria said. Is that feasible? Marcus hesitated. I'd have to look into it. Maybe work from home some days. Get childcare for when I'm in the office. So you'd need childcare, I said. Just like I do. The difference is I've been managing it alone for 18 months while working full-time. You've had your mother have them for occasional weekends. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You want primary custody? Then you need to prove you can actually do the day-to-day parenting. The school runs, the homework, the packed lunches, the constant laundry, the doctor's appointments, the parent-teacher meetings, the playdates, the birthday parties, the sleepless nights when they're sick. All of it. Not just the fun weekend stuff. Marcus's face went pale. I could see him calculating, realizing the reality of what primary custody would actually mean. I could do it, he said, but he sounded less certain. With help from your mother? Maybe. Initially. The same mother who couldn't handle one night? He had no answer to that. Victoria was watching this exchange with professional detachment. Perhaps 50-50 custody is worth exploring. It would require mediation, a detailed parenting plan, financial arrangements. He owes me 3 months of back maintenance, I said. Over £2,000. that needs to be addressed. We can include that in the mediation. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Good. He should be uncomfortable. Fine, he said finally. Let's try 50-50. 1 week on, 1 week off. Starting when? Give me a month to sort out work arrangements, childcare. A month? I laughed without humor. I've been doing this with zero notice for 18 months. You get a month to prepare. Charlotte, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You want custody? You start now. This week. You have them Monday to Sunday, I have them the following week. Figure it out like I've had to figure everything out. I don't have childcare arranged. Neither did I when you moved out. Use your mother. Use a childminder. Use annual leave. I don't care. But if you want to take them from me, you're going to prove you can actually care for them first. Victoria was making frantic notes. This is highly irregular. This entire situation is highly irregular, I said. I'm offering him exactly what he's asking for, primary custody alternating with me. He should be jumping at it. Unless. I looked at Marcus. Unless you don't actually want them full-time. Unless this was just about punishing me. His face went red. It's not about punishment. Then prove it. Take them this week. Show me you can do what I've been doing alone. The silence stretched out. Marcus looked at Victoria, who shrugged slightly. This was beyond her remit as a solicitor. This was us, two parents, negotiating the impossible. Okay, Marcus said finally. Hey, I'll take them this week. But you need to help with the transition, drop-off times, routines, everything. I'll write it all down. Everything you need to know. And we'll reconvene next Saturday, Victoria said. See how the week went. If this arrangement is sustainable. And Miss Hayes, you should know. If you use this week to have another breakdown, disappear again, anything like that, it will absolutely be used against you in court. I won't, I said firmly. I've learned my lesson. Had I? I wasn't sure. But I knew I didn't have any other options. This was it. Cooperate, share custody, prove I was stable, or lose them entirely. I spent Sunday writing everything down. Olivia's school schedule, her reading level, her friendship dramas, her fear of thunderstorms. Emma's asthma management, her food sensitivities, her need for routine, her special stuffed rabbit she couldn't sleep without. Samuel's bedwetting, stress-related, getting better but still occasional. His anxiety about loud noises, his love of dinosaurs and anything with wheels. Their favorite foods. Their bedtime routines. Their quirks and fears and joys. Everything Marcus should have known after 7 years of being their father but somehow didn't. I printed it out, 5 pages, and put it in a folder along with their medical records, school contact information, emergency numbers. On Sunday evening I sat the children down. You're going to spend this week with Daddy, I said, trying to sound upbeat. Olivia's face fell. The whole week. Yes. It'll be fun. He's very excited to have you. Was he? I didn't know. He texted me 3 times asking about logistics, panic evident even in messages. But what about school? Olivia asked. Daddy doesn't know where my classroom is. I've written it all down for him. He'll be fine. And nursery? Emma asked. Miss Caroline does my inhaler if I need it. Will Daddy know? Daddy knows about your inhaler, sweetheart. And I've told him about Miss Caroline. Samuel said nothing, just clutched his blanket tighter. You'll have your phones, I told them. They each had basic mobile phones, pay-as-you-go things just for emergencies. You can call me anytime at all. And I'll call you every evening before bed. Promise? Olivia asked. Promise. Marcus arrived at 6 p.m. to collect them. He looked nervous, which gave me a small, petty satisfaction. You ready for this? I asked. As ready as I'll ever be. I handed him the folder. Everything you need to know is in here. Read it tonight. All of it. 5 pages. That's their entire lives condensed down. It should be 50 pages, but I didn't have time. He took the folder, flipped through it. This is detailed. Needs to be. They're complex little people with needs and fears and routines. You can't just wing it. I raced them for their first few years. You were present for their first few years. I raced them. There's a difference. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. Knew it was true. The children came downstairs with their bags. They looked uncertain, scared even. It's going to be fine, I told them, hugging each one. Daddy's going to take good care of you. And I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? Okay, Olivia whispered. They left. I watched from the window as Marcus loaded them into his car, struggling with the car seats. He'd never had to do this before, always just had them delivered to him pre-installed. He was checking the folder, looking stressed. Good. Let him be stressed. Let him understand for 1 week what I'd been living for 18 months. The flat felt impossibly empty. I wandered from room to room, seeing them everywhere. Olivia's hairbrush on the bathroom sink, Emma's drawings on the fridge, Samuel's toy cars scattered across the living room floor. I should clean. Sort out their rooms. Catch up on laundry. But I didn't have the energy. Instead, I poured a glass of wine, the cheap stuff from Tesco, all I could afford, and sat on the sofa in the silence. This was what I'd thought I wanted. Space. Quiet. Time to myself. It felt awful. My phone rang at 7:30. Marcus. Charlotte, I can't find Samuel's pajamas. They're in the blue bag. Middle compartment. I've looked. They're not there. Then check the front pocket. Or the side. They're definitely in that bag. Hey. Also, what does Emma eat for breakfast? It's in the folder. Page 2. I know, but... Page 2, Marcus. Under daily routines. I literally wrote it down 4 hours ago. He hung up. Called back 10 minutes later. Olivia says she needs a packed lunch for tomorrow. She has a school trip. I closed my eyes. Yes. I put a note in the folder. There's a separate list of things she needs. Packed lunch, water bottle, spare clothes in case they get muddy, and £20 for the gift shop. £20. It's for the British Museum. The letter came home last week. I didn't see a letter. Because you're never there when letters come home. Check Olivia's school bag. Red folder. Fine. What does she like in her packed lunch? For God's sake, Marcus, it's in the folder. Page 3. I've listed everything. Favorite sandwiches, snacks she'll actually eat, the fact that she hates bananas but likes apples. Alright. Sorry. This is just a lot. Yes, I said quietly. It is. Welcome to my life. He hung up. The calls continued throughout the evening. What time is bedtime? Where are the twins' toothbrushes? Why is Emma crying? What story does Samuel like? Why won't Olivia go to sleep? I answered every call with decreasing patience until finally at 9:30 I said, Marcus, you need to figure this out. I can't walk you through every single step. The information is all there. Use it. But... No. They're your children. You're their father. You've been their father for 7 years. You should know this stuff. The fact that you don't is embarrassing. That's not fair. It's completely fair. I'm going to bed. Do not call me unless it's an emergency. And an emergency is defined as blood, breathing difficulties, or hospital trips. Everything else you handle. I hung up. Turned my phone on silent. Went to bed. Monday was hell for both of us, I imagine. I woke up at my normal time, 6 a.m., but had nothing to do. No children to feed, dress, or shepherd to school. I went for a walk instead, something I hadn't done in months. The streets were full of parents doing the school run, and I felt like a ghost watching a life I used to have. Marcus called at 8:30. I ignored it. He texted, Olivia forgot her PE kit. Can I drop it off at school? I texted back. No. She'll have to borrow from Lost and Found. Natural consequences. That's harsh. That's parenting. Sometimes they forget things. They survive. He sent me a photo at lunchtime. All 3 children sitting in a cafe eating lunch. They looked happy. The caption. Took them out instead of packed lunches. Easier. I bit back my response about how I couldn't afford to take them out for lunch every day, how I made packed lunches because it was economical, how this wasn't sustainable. Let him learn that lesson himself. Tuesday he called at 7 a.m. Emma's wheezing. I gave her the inhaler but she's still struggling. How bad? I don't know. You tell me. Is she turning blue? Can she speak? She's talking but it sounds difficult. Then watch her closely. If it gets worse, if she can't complete sentences, call an ambulance. But give the inhaler time to work. I'm scared, Charlotte. Welcome to parenthood. We're always scared. I talked him down, stayed on the phone while he monitored Emma. 20 minutes later she'd improved. Just a minor attack, probably stress-related. Thank you, he said quietly. You're welcome. Wednesday he showed up at my door at 5 p.m. with all 3 children. What are you doing? I asked. I need a break. Just for a few hours. I've got them all day, I've barely slept. No. Charlotte, please. No, Marcus. This is your week. You committed to this. You don't get to tap out halfway through because it's hard. I'm not tapping out. I just need a few hours. And I needed help for 18 months. But I didn't get it. So no. You don't get to bring them back just because you're tired. You're being vindictive. I'm being consistent. This is what you wanted. This is what it takes to be a primary parent. If you can't handle a week, how exactly were you planning to have full custody? He looked exhausted. Properly exhausted. The kind of bone-deep tired I'd been living with for months. Fine, he said. But this isn't sustainable. No, I agreed. It isn't. Which is why I've been asking for more support. Which is why shared custody makes sense. He nodded slowly. Yeah. I'm starting to see that. Thursday he called at bedtime. They want to talk to you. I spoke to each of them. Olivia told me about school, about the museum trip, about how Daddy had bought her a stuffed scarab beetle from the gift shop. Emma told me she'd painted a picture of our family, all 5 of us together, which made my chest ache. Samuel just said, "Miss you, Mummy," and my heart broke all over again. I miss you too, babies. So much. Just a few more days. Friday Marcus sent a text. Can I bring them back early? Like Friday evening instead of Sunday? Oh. Sunday evening as agreed. Charlotte, please. I'm exhausted. My flat is destroyed. I haven't slept properly all week. I need a break. Sunday evening. You committed to a week. You're being unreasonable. I'm being exactly as reasonable as you were when I was begging for help. He didn't respond after that. Saturday silence. No calls, no texts. I started to worry. At lunchtime I called him. Everything okay? We're fine. At the park. The kids are playing. You sound tired. I am tired. I'm so tired I can barely think. How do you do this every day? I just do. There's no alternative. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't understand. How hard it is. How relentless. I thought you were exaggerating, complaining too much. But you weren't. This is impossible. It's not impossible. But it's definitely impossible to do alone long term. Yeah, he agreed. I'm starting to realize that. Sunday evening 6 p.m. Marcus pulled up outside my flat. I'd been watching the clock for hours, anxious to see them again. The children tumbled out of the car, running to me, talking over each other about their week. I hugged them so tightly, breathing in their familiar smell, shampoo and sweat and something indefinably them. Marcus got out slowly, looking like he'd aged a decade. Coffee. I offered that. He nodded gratefully. Inside, the children immediately scattered to their rooms, reclaiming their spaces. I made coffee, handed Marcus a mug. So, I said. So, I get it now. I really get it. This week was the hardest week of my life. Try doing it for 18 months. I can't imagine. Honestly, Charlotte, I don't know how you've managed. The constant vigilance, the endless needs, the exhaustion, the worry, and you've been doing it while working nights. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It was the first real apology he'd ever given me. Thank you, I said quietly. I can't do full custody, he admitted. I thought I could. I thought you were just being dramatic about how hard it is. But this week proved me completely wrong. I can barely handle 1 week with full support. My mum helped twice, I took 3 days off work and I'm still shattered. You've been doing this with no support and no breaks. So what now? 50-50 custody. Properly. 1 week on, 1 week off. I'll arrange my schedule, get proper childcare, make it work. And maintenance? I'll pay. On time. Every month. And I'll cover the arrears. The full £2,000. You're right, I've been treating it like optional when it's not. They're my kids and I need to support them properly. I felt something unknot in my chest. Relief maybe. Or vindication. And no more court threats? I asked. No more court threats. What you did, dropping them with Mum without warning, that wasn't okay. But I understand now why you did it. You were drowning and I'd refused to help. I pushed you to that point. I still shouldn't have done it. No. But I shouldn't have let things get that bad in the first place. We sat in silence, drinking coffee, both too exhausted for more words. Can I ask you something? Marcus said finally. Sure. That thing I said. On the phone before all this started. About no man wanting a single mother of 3. Did I really say that? I nodded. He closed his eyes. God. That's awful. I'm sorry. I was angry, lashing out, trying to hurt you. But that was cruel and untrue. It worked. It hurt. I know. And I'm sorry. For that and for everything else. For not being the partner you needed. For not being the father our kids deserved. For making this so much harder than it had to be. It was strange hearing him take responsibility. I'd spent so long being angry at him, resenting him, that I didn't quite know what to do with his apology. Thank you, I said finally. That means a lot. So we'll try this? 50-50. We'll try it. Starting next Monday. You have them Monday to Sunday, I have them the following week. We'll adjust as needed. Hey. And Charlotte? If you ever need help, if you're struggling, please tell me. Don't wait until you're at breaking point. I'll step up. I promise. I'll hold you to that. He smiled, tired but genuine. I'd expect nothing less. That was 3 months ago. 3 months of 50-50 custody, of adjustment and learning and occasional arguments about logistics. It's not perfect. Nothing about divorce and co-parenting is perfect. But it's better. So much better. I have every other week with the children. Full, exhausting, beautiful weeks where I'm still tired but no longer drowning. And then I have alternate weeks where they're with Marcus and I can sleep, work, exist as a person rather than just mom. I've caught up on bills. Paid off some debt. Started putting aside tiny amounts for savings. The children have adjusted better than I expected. They miss us when they're with the other parent, but they're learning that love doesn't disappear just because we're apart. That both parents can be present, involved, reliable. Marcus is learning to actually parent. He still calls me sometimes with questions but less frequently. He's developing his own routines, his own relationship with them. He's even joined the school parents' WhatsApp group, which felt like a minor miracle. Me. I'm learning to be human again. To have thoughts that aren't about children. To sleep more than 4 hours at a stretch. To remember that I'm Charlotte, not just Olivia, Emma, and Samuel's mom. I started therapy. Proper therapy with someone who specializes in parental burnout. Turns out what I experienced, the exhaustion, the breakdown, the desperate choice, it has a name. It's called depleted mother syndrome and it's shockingly common. You were running on empty for so long, my therapist said in our first session. What happened wasn't a failure of love. It was a failure of support systems. That helped. Understanding that I wasn't uniquely weak or bad, just unsupported. Patricia and I have repaired our relationship somewhat. She apologized for not understanding how hard things were for me. I apologized for putting her in an impossible situation. We're cordial now if not close. Marcus's sisters are slower to forgive. Sophie especially still makes comments about my breakdown, air quotes included. But I've learned not to care as much what they think. Their judgment says more about them than about me. The children are doing well. Olivia's behavior at school has improved now that things are more stable at home. Emma's asthma attacks have decreased. Turns out stress was a major trigger. Samuel stopped wetting the bed entirely once he adjusted to the new routine. They're happy. As happy as children of divorce can be anyway. And I'm okay. Not perfect, not healed, not the person I was before children. But okay. I'm sitting in my flat again like I was that night 3 months ago when this all started. But this time the silence is companionable rather than oppressive. The children are with Marcus this week and instead of feeling empty, the flat just feels peaceful. I've learned some things through all of this. Asking for help isn't weakness. It's survival. And if the people who promise to help don't follow through, that's on them, not you. Mothers are human. We're allowed to be exhausted, overwhelmed, and imperfect. The expectation that we should sacrifice everything without complaint isn't noble. It's unsustainable. 50-50 custody shouldn't be the exception. It should be the norm. Children need both parents equally involved and parents need shared responsibility to survive. The double standard is real. Fathers who do the bare minimum get praised. Mothers who do everything get criticized for the one thing they don't do perfectly. We need to acknowledge this and fight against it. Sometimes you have to break before things can be rebuilt better. My breakdown, because let's call it what it was, Forced everyone to see the unsustainable situation I'd been living in. It forced Marcus to step up. It forced change. Was it the right way to achieve that change? No. Would I do it again? God, no. The guilt of leaving them that night, the fear in their eyes, the damage to their trust. I'll carry that forever. But I also can't regret the outcome. Because now I have a co-parent. Now my children have two involved parents instead of one exhausted mother and one occasional father. Now we're building something better from the wreckage of what broke. I called the children tonight. Spoke to each of them before bed. Love you, Mummy, Olivia said. Miss you, Emma added. See you Sunday. Samuel chirped, excited. I love you all so much, I told them. Sweet dreams. After I hung up, I sat with the phone in my hand thinking about that conversation 3 months ago. The one that started with an argument about money and ended with me saying things I can never take back. No man will marry a single mother of 3 children. Marcus had said that. Or had I said it? In my memory it's blurred. Maybe he said it, maybe I said it, maybe it was said between us in that volatile space where hurt people hurt each other. But here's the truth. I don't need a man to marry me. I need a co-parent who shows up. I need financial stability. I need support systems that don't evaporate when things get hard. And slowly I'm building those things. I'm not the perfect mother. I never will be. I'm too tired, too scarred, too aware of my own limitations. But I'm good enough. And more importantly, I'm present. I'm trying. I'm learning. And my children know they're loved. Even when I'm imperfect. Even when I make mistakes. Even when I'm so exhausted I can barely function. They know they're loved. That has to be enough. That has to be enough. The question this script poses is, how do we build a society where parents don't have to reach that breaking point? Where asking for help is normalized. Where parenting is truly shared rather than falling overwhelmingly on one person. Until we answer those questions, there will be more Charlottes. More parents who love their children desperately but can't sustain the impossible demands placed on them. Advice to women. Never allow a man's words to define your value. If a man uses emotional abuse to control you, that's not love. That's manipulation. Have a financial backup plan. Women suffer most when they depend fully on a man who walks away. Put the children first. Remove them from toxic conflict when possible. Seek counseling, legal advice, and family support early. Don't wait until you break. Advice to men. Your words can build your home or destroy it. Choose wisely. Fatherhood is responsibility, not optional. Children deserve both parents' love and presence. Never use insults, shame, or emotional abuse to win an argument. It only creates generational damage. If the marriage fails, the children should not suffer the consequences. This isn't a story about a bad mother. It's a story about a good mother failed by an inadequate system. Hit subscribe if you believe no woman should suffer in silence. Share this video to help another woman going through the same pain.